Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me now.
Yes.
I'm attorney Jim Seidel. I'm the owner of Seidel Offices. And let me just say, before I get into this webinar, I want to get this off my idea or off my chest. Webinars, it seems to me, fall into two categories. One are basically infomercials where someone's basically selling themselves and they're giving you as little information as they can with the idea of you having to come to them. And on the other end of the spectrum are purely educational webinars. This is a bit of a hybrid. 90% of what we're giving you today is information we've learned over 25 years of working with clients, especially with limited liability companies, but corporations, business trusts, all kinds of different other entities. And 10% is a sales pitch. We would love all of you to become our clients at the end, but that's way secondary. The primary thing I want to get out there is good, solid information about business essentials, starting up a business, or if you have a business going, what additional things you might need to know. I rarely, if ever, if someone comes to me with their own LLC, I almost never find that they have done an adequate job, that there's always things that they have missed, critical things, and we hope to clue you in on what those are today. So again, this is going to be hard-won information that we have earned or learned over the years with a little bit of pitch to urge you to come be our clients should you so wish. But I think you're going to find that we're really low pressure as far as that is concerned. Okay, so I've got to. All right. First of all, there are handouts available. If this were pre-COVID, you would actually be sitting in chairs and desks, and we'd have all the stuff for you. But this stuff is all available by contacting my office or the website or the email address. You got the evaluation and sign-up form. This is if you want to do a follow-on appointment. Copy of today's slides. The presentation is going to be on YouTube. We'll have a little more information on that. 5% discount certificate for fees charged subsequently. My introductory booklet and business booklet, as well as the business card, and planning for your future of your farm. This is kind of a farm-oriented, but it's also really a business-oriented, put out by the Virginia Cooperative Extension. Really good piece of work, and that's available by contacting Jennifer Ligon, who is one of our VCE hosts for today.
Hey, Jim, just to pause you really quick before you go forward. Actually, all of that information that you just listed will be available to each of you after you complete the evaluation, which is a Google form. So you'll get a link. We'll send it to you in an email, and that way you will get a copy of the sign-up form that Jim's talking about, a copy of today's slides, the 5% discount certificate, and all of that stuff, and the link to the 2017 Planning Your Future of Your Farm book. We have, for reporting purposes, we have to have an evaluation from the workshop. So that will come to you in a link via email. So you'll get that, and then once you fill that out, you'll check a box and we'll send you all of this information.
All right, this is why Amber's getting paid the big bucks. All right, you know, in any kind of business planning or estate planning for that matter, your team of professionals would include the lawyers, life insurance agents, accountants, financial planners, bankers, cooperative extension agents. So those are your team. And a little bit about myself. I'm a second generation attorney. My dad started the business in 1941. I've been an attorney since 1980, former judge advocate with the United States Air Force. I concentrate in estate business planning. You're going to find very few lawyers throughout the country do this kind of concentration. In fact, the American Bar Association some years ago did a research project, and it's less than 10% of lawyers concentrate in estate and business planning, which is basically what we've been doing for many, many years. Well, since 1993 to be exact. I have a Juris Doctorate degree, a Master's of Law and Taxation from William & Mary, licensed in Virginia, Maryland, D.C., the U.S. Tax Court, and before the United States Supreme Court. I'm a member of the National Network of Estate Planning Attorneys. There's about, I think roughly 300 to 400 law firms. We have our own, we've generated our own documents, which are as far as I'm concerned, some of the best in the country. We have a mainframe in our main office, and mainframe is located in Indiana, where we are a limited liability company there. And I have a roving practice in that most of my clients do not see me at my main office. I see them at one of my branch offices, or sometimes at their houses or businesses. And we have currently about 2,700 clients. When you get the introductory booklet, you'll see a more complete biography on myself. Joining me is my associate, Sonia Ristici, and this is some of her information. The way we're going to do this, the first half of this presentation I'm going to take, and then she's going to take the other half. So she's got an incredible background, and has been just an incredible help to this office as far as helping us accomplish our objectives. I usually give Sonia the tough cases. All right, again, we got a little evaluation form here. This is one of those little infomercial pitches to have you sign up if you want to, especially if you'd like to become a client of ours. One of the reasons that you're spending your fall afternoon doing this kind of webinar is because the fact of the matter is 3 out of 4 Americans die without proper business and estate planning. And there's a whole bevy, there's a whole stable of lawyers standing by to take advantage of that situation and not only make life difficult, but do it at 10 times the cost of getting this all done in advance. You know, I used to say a stitch in time is to save 9 or something like that, and that's kind of what's going on here. We're trying to get you in to be one of the people that properly planned your business and estate. Okay, so business planning, or sometimes called entity planning. Why do we even want to do this? Here are 5 risks that every business owner has. Disease and disability. Right now, people are closing down left or right because of this pandemic disease. And part of one reason you do good planning is to prepare yourself for those kinds of problems. And good planning does exactly that. Death of one or both owners or multiple owners, disaster or debt, disagreement, particularly disagreement among the partners or among the members or among the shareholders. Divorce can wreak havoc on a business. And so those are the 5 Ds, reasons for planning. Those are obviously very generic, but everybody faces one or more of these Ds, and it is the estate planning and the business planning reason for doing stuff in advance. So when I look at business planning, the first thing I want people to focus in is that if you look at your estate, which is everything you own, real and personal, tangible and intangible, accounting, life insurance, and those kinds of things, you divide it into your personal estate, which is on the left there, and your business estate, which is on the right. And your personal estate would be like your personal residence, your personal household items, personal bank accounts. Your business estate is real estate that your business might own. For example, an attorney, I work out of a house that is owned by one of my LLCs, limited liability companies. My business personal property would be business vehicles, machinery, crops, livestock, inventory, whatever the case may be as far as personal property of your business. Business intangible property, bank accounts, investment accounts. So all of those things are extremely important. One of the steps people miss is identifying what exactly is their business estate and separate that out from your personal estate. We want to kind of carve it out, and we want to move that into an incorporated or organized business, so we segregate it from your personal estate. This is why wealthy people can sometimes go bankrupt several times and still stay wealthy, because they've segregated their business assets from their personal assets. And even if the business estate is being sued or going bankrupt or in some sort of commotion, their personal estate is left intact. All right, some types of business plans or business entities. We've got the unincorporated business, sometimes referred to as the sole proprietorship. We have the sole proprietorships themselves, corporations, which can either be a C corporation or an S corporation, partnerships, either a general partnership or a limited partnership, and limited liability companies. That's underscored because that is really the focus of today's presentation of limited liability companies. Don't run away if you've got a corporation in place, because we're going to be talking about that somewhat as well. But your limited liability company, one of the reasons you're going to see that we like limited liability companies is because they are so flexible, and you can go through various iterations of your limited liability company as things change. So for those of you who have a business going, you're running a business, but it's not incorporated or it's not organized, these are the things that you're missing out on. You have no creditor inside or outside creditor protections. In other words, if you've got a legal action that is generated from within your business, there's no protections for the rest of your estate. Or if you're being sued from outside your business, there's no creditor protection. No creditor protection means potentially your entire estate is vulnerable to your business problems. So for instance, if you have an unincorporated business and you go bankrupt, that bankruptcy may pull in your entire estate. If you are being sued and you don't have a business that's incorporated, that lawsuit could potentially go against your entire estate. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to protect. You might be unsure who owns the property. When I have people come into my office and they tell me they have a business, and I tell them, well, who owns the business? A lot of times they don't know. If it's a husband and wife, it may be all the husbands, it might be the wives, it might be 50-50, it might be a woman minority business. Maybe she's got 99, he's got 1, but it's unsure if you're not incorporated. It may be completely out there, and that can be very problematic down the road. Membership may be clear. Who's actually a member? Who's just an investor? Ownership may be unclear. Tax status, are you filing as a sole proprietorship? Is it a partnership? Is some kind of other entity? That may be unclear. Lack of authority to bind the business, so to borrow money or to enter into a contract, it may be unclear as to who has the right to bind the business. These are just some of the problems that you have, including there's no centralized management, no way of making decisions within the business. And so for those of you who are in a situation where you have a business or you want to have a business, these are things you're going to be missing out if you don't have your business properly incorporated or properly organized. All right, reasons for having a limited liability company or an LLC. So this is the definition here in Virginia. And we do have some people from out of state. I will simply say to you people who are out of state is that if you've got an out of state business and you also do business in the state of Virginia, you need to make sure that your company is registered and domesticated in the state of Virginia. So here's the Virginia Limited Liability Company. It's an unincorporated association having one or more members, organized and operated pursuant to the Virginia Limited Liability Company Act. And the Virginia LLC is accepted in all United States jurisdictions. Okay, so the first reason for having an LLC would be limited liability protection. What does that mean? We want to limit your liability, your business liability, to the business. So if you are sued for malpractice, for example, the malpractice or the tort, we call it in the law, will be limited to your business and your business assets. It's the most flexible of all business entities. I mentioned this earlier, which is one reason we like the limited liability company. Does not expose the debts to the business, unlike traditional limited partnerships. It's a pass-through income tax entity. Generally, as a default, an LLC is not taxed twice, such as an S corporation, but it's only taxed once, and that's taxed at the members level, not at the business level. So if I have an LLC and it makes $100,000, that flows through to my income tax return, and I pay that 100,000 of net taxes on my personal income tax return. Lifetime and testament or gifting. Many people want to pass their limited liability company on to, for example, their children, maybe friends, maybe siblings. And by having an LLC, you can either do that during your lifetime. You can do gifting during your lifetime. I've had parents gift all but 99% of their company interest to their children, or you can give it at death. So in the case of a mom and dad, at the time of their death, they can give their LLC to their one or more of their children. So you have that option. You can do lifetime gifting, or you can do testamentary gifting. Okay, so here you see the various choices you have when you form a limited liability company. You can see 2, 4, 6, or 7 choices here. You can be a single member LLC. This would be an LLC where you're the only member. You could be a married couple, husband and wife trust LLC. You can have a family partnership, multi-family partnerships. I do a number of these. This is where, say, siblings have inherited property from their parents and they want to keep the business going. You can have non-family partnerships. So you are in an LLC with your best buddy from high school, and it can be either C corporation or an S corporation. So what does limited liability mean? Kind of already alluded a little bit to this, but here you see your inside and outside protections. So you take your LLC, and if you've got let's say you've hurt somebody with driving your personal vehicle, and they're suing you, they're not going to be able to get into your LLC as a general rule. They've got to pass what's called the veil of protection, and they're going to have a very difficult time. The judge should not allow them for that personal injury that you caused to go into your LLC. At the same time, if your LLC is sued, let's say you hurt somebody in the process of conducting your LLC business, the suit can't go against your personal estate. So we're preventing claims from going from outside to inside and from inside to outside, and that's exactly what you want to keep your estate in well protected. Members and management of an LLC. So your members could be a single member LLC, husband and wife, parent, child. We have a lot of parents who already have their children on as members of the LLCs. We have plenty of parents that do not bring their children on. So you got that option. Multifamily LLCs, unrelated, and special situations. And by the way, so you could have a disabled child or a disabled sibling. You could have people who are minors. You could have members in a different state or country, and they can all still be part of the limited liability company. Okay, types of LLCs by management type. There's what's called the manager managed LLC. This is where the managing members are senior partners and the members only are junior partners. So an example of this would be a mom and dad and child operation where mom and dad are the managing members. So they're like the senior partners. They make the day-to-day decisions. And then the child is a junior partner. These are my terms, by the way, not official legal terms. So the children, one or more child, can be a junior partner. It's a wonderful way to make children, have some skin in the game. They actually have ownership interest. It may only be a couple %, but it gives them all the rights of being a member. That gives them a right to participate in meetings. It gives them a right to speak their mind. Gives them a right to vote, and that kind of thing. And then there are member managed LLCs. This is where all members are also managers. An example of this might be a bunch of professionals getting together like doctors, and they want to form their own limited liability company, which each of them having an equal say in how the LLC is run. I would say about 95% of my LLCs are manager managed LLC, where we have senior partners and junior partners. And you don't have to have a junior partner. Everybody could be senior partners until you bring someone on later on. So here's an example of a dad, mom, and children's LLC. Start from the dotted box up above. You've got business operational assets. So operational assets would be vehicles, machinery. It could be nothing more than a laptop and your desk in a chair. There's an arrow there. This is assigned or funded to. This is another critical thing we find people miss when they do these things on their own, but we want to do some kind of formal assignment over to the LLC. We're calling this the Business Operations LLC. Over on the right, you see a box that says optional lifetime gifting. So if you want, you could gift this to your child, to your partner, to whomever. And then this is assuming mom and dad, upon the death of the second parent, then it would go down to the children. In this hypothetically, we're thinking it would pass through a revocable living trust. I'll probably repeat myself here, but if you do have a business, we think it's close to being a no-brainer that you have a living trust, because you don't want a business going through the probate system at your death if you are a business owner. Multiple family limited liability companies. So here's an example of a brother and sister. This is actually a real sample, not anywhere in this area, but we've got a limited liability company that in which the siblings, I think in this case it was two brothers, each owned 25%. Their spouses each owned 23%. And then each had a child that owned 2%. So this is a multifamily. Dad had passed the business down to the two sons who were married. They then gifted to their spouses and their children. So we have that kind of percentage makeup. And then at the death of the owners, we have a buy-sell agreement, so we keep control of the business for the next generation. And then it went through their various living trusts. So this is a multifamily. Usually in attendance like this, I have 2 or 3 people that are in this scenario. Situs of your limited liability company. Situs is not a disease. Situs is where your limited liability company is governed, is legally located. So you're typically, for those of you who are here in Virginia, we are going to do a Virginia domestic LLC, which means you're the owners. And this is going to be, like I say, organized here in in Virginia. If a business also is conducted in another state, then you want to go through the process of domesticating your state LLC to that other state. So if in Virginia, let's say you operate the business also in Pennsylvania, then you'd want to be organized not only in Virginia, but you'd want to be organized in Pennsylvania. You might say, oh my gosh, why would I want to do that? Because if you don't do that and you regularly conduct business in Pennsylvania and you get sued, all bets are off. It's as if you didn't have an LLC. So if you're going to conduct business in multiple states, we would urge you to have them organized and domesticated in all the states that you operate from. And again, I mentioned earlier, for those of you who are out of state and you have business dealings in Virginia, Maryland, or District of Columbia, we can help you domesticate your out-of-state businesses in those jurisdictions. Okay, organizing the LLC. How do we organize this thing? So I want you to kind of go through this portfolio contents, because when I see people do LLCs on their own or through LegalZoom, these they never measure up to this table of contents. There's always substantial pieces of the puzzle are missing. You're going to see articles of organization, operating agreement, minutes of meetings, member certificates and certificate ledger, financial and tax records of your company, and miscellaneous such as buy, sell, leases, and gifting. So that's what a good limited liability company portfolio should look like. And that's what we work for when we work towards when we have businesses and clients in our office. Ongoing expenses, one of the things you're going to be concerned about is, what are my ongoing expenses of the LLC? So annual LLC registration is paid to the State Corporation Commission here in Virginia. In Virginia, it's a nice $50, which is very pro-business. In other states, I think California, for example, the annual fee is $900. So you can see the difference between a pro-business state and one that arguably maybe, at least in that regard, is not so pro-business. State of Maryland is $300, and I know in other states it's $300 or $400, but that is an annual fee that you've got to pay. So if you have a California limited liability company, each and every year you're paying the state of California $900. In Virginia, you're paying $50. There's going to be typically an additional income tax return, or maybe just an additional schedule. So if you're a sole member LLC, typically your accountant would not file an additional income tax return. They'll just file an additional Schedule E or Schedule F would be two examples of schedules, and they'll be part of your 1041 return. There's going to be registered agent fees. Typically for my clients, I suggest that people be their own registered agent so they won't have to incur an additional charge. Sometimes people want someone such as myself to be their registered agent fee, and then that's an additional fee. I think currently we're charging $200 a year to be registered agents for those people. We probably have a dozen of these. And then you're going to have ongoing legal reviews and assistance. In our case, we make this optional to the clients. We assist some clients in doing their annual meetings. We'll assist them in gifting LLC interest to their children or other people. And we usually get involved if the business has acquired or plans to acquire real estate. So we get involved when big changes are made, or maybe I'll have a client come in every several years and we'll do an annual meeting minutes for them. It's very important if you have an LLC that you do annual meeting minutes, because it's one way you prove to a judge that you've got a bona fide legitimate business going, that you have written annual meeting minutes. And that's a service we provide our clients. Okay, that brings me to 29. And I think at this point, I'm going to bow out from sharing the screen. And I think Sonia is going to bow in. Sonia, you ready for this?
Yes, I am. So I'm going to share my screen. And so 29, let me bring up the 29 slide. You've already talked about this, so 30. Okay. So if you use our law office to help you with your business planning documents, you're likely to, this is an example of what you'll receive from our office, a binder holding one set of originals of your documents, and then a flat envelope with the second set of originals of your documents. So that's a picture of what you're likely to.
Hey, Sonia, sorry to interrupt you. Can you put your PowerPoint in present mode?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Amber, am I off? Have you gotten me off?
Yep, you're off.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then you just got to skip to the, sorry, you're just going to have to skip to the binders.
Okay. Well, I hate to do this. How do I skip all the way?
Okay, hit escape again. Hit escape. And then just go back to the 29th slide.
Okay.
And right there in the corner, do from current slide, right there.
Okay, got it. Okay, got it.
Yep.
All right. All right. Okay, so I want to talk about dormant LLCs. What I'm talking about here is a LLC or a business entity that you're not currently operating in a business, but you formed this business entity for the purpose of operating a business in the future. And so it is really important that you file your annual registration fees with the State Corporation Commission to keep your business active so that you don't lose your active status and lose your name. So one of the worst things that could happen to you is that it go inactive with the SEC and then you lose your name and then you're going to have to start over again and you may not be able to get that name back. It might be, there may not be any income tax return required for your inactive business because no income is being earned, but, and that's generally the case, but you want to check that with your accountant to make sure. I want to talk about funding of your business entity. Let's talk about the types of assets that a business is likely to have. We've got vehicles, equipment, machinery, maybe some furnishings, computers, obviously, bank accounts, and real property. It's really important that you transfer these assets to the business properly. So if the particular asset has a title associated with it, like a vehicle or a tractor where there's a title with your local DMV,
So,
need to-
excuse me.
yes.
I'm not seeing your slides.
Okay, is everybody else seeing the slides?
No, we're seeing like a universe, stars and moons and stuff.
Yeah, you know what that means? That means I'm still on. I got to get out of here.
Okay, sorry about that, folks.
Jim, you'll want to stop sharing screen.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how to do that. Amber, can you help me?
I've already stopped you sharing screen. Sonia, you can start sharing.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen right now. Can everybody see this screen?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. So again, I want to talk about the placing of the assets into the business entity. And it's really important that you handle this properly. If that asset has a title associated with it, like a vehicle or a tractor has a title with it that's filed with the DMV, you're going to need to re-register those vehicles, those tractors to your business entity. A bank account, you'll need to make sure the business entity is the owner of the bank account. The business entity needs to be the owner of any contracts you have, like life insurance, promissory notes, and the owner of life insurance policies, the beneficiary of life insurance policies. And real property, the business needs to be the owner. Let's see here. Trying to... Okay, here we go. I'm sorry about that. So, and it's important that you don't commingle your personal assets with your business assets. So we want to have a real distinction upon what assets the business owns and what assets that you own to avoid the business creditors from trying to attach your personal estate. So if the particular asset doesn't have a title, like it's furnishings, or if it's crops or animals or things like that, you want to have one of your business documents should describe the assets of the business to include those without titles. If your business owns real property, then you're going to need to deed that real property over to the business. Okay, so it will no longer be in your name. It will be in the business's name, and that deed has to be recorded within the county. Okay. Let's talk about businesses that own both real property and personal property. It may be advantageous for you to separate the property that handles the operations of the business from the real property. So you would have a separate entity that's holding the assets that handle the operations of the business. So this PowerPoint slide represents that. This entity, operations business entity, is going to hold things like everything that you use to operate the business, your vehicles, your machinery, equipment, your bank account, things of that nature. And then this slide represents the second business entity that would hold your real property. And the reason why you may want to do that is because you don't want the creditors of the operations business to be able to sue and take the property. Okay, so they wouldn't be able to take the property because the property is owned by someone else, a entirely different business entity. This slide shows the two different entities side by side. Okay, so the left-hand side shows the entity that owns all the assets and handles the operations of the business. And the blue box on the right-hand side shows a separate entity that owns the real property. So here we have a clear distinction that the realty entity owns the property, and so the operations business does not own the property. And we should have a lease agreement between these two entities, showing that the real property entity is leasing the land to the operations entity. I want to talk about a few agreements that a business entity is likely to have. Buy-sell agreement. Okay, you know, your exit strategy. When I think about buy-sell agreements, I think of two different situations. One we're going to talk a little more about is what are we going to do about a deceased member's interests? So an owner of the company dies. What's going to happen to his share of the company? Okay, having a buy-sell agreement within the business documents, the business can predetermine what's going to happen to that deceased owner's share. Another second reason for this is an exit strategy. Maybe the owner is getting tired and he wants to retire eventually, but he has this very valuable business that has a lot of value, and maybe he could use that for his retirement. So we see that buy-sell agreements work very well in transitioning the business to a new successor owner. Lease agreements. We talked about how a lease agreement helps distinguish who is the owner of the land. But lease agreements are also going to be used for third parties that may come onto the land to remove the crops or do timbering. Having a lease agreement between the business entity and that third party, fixing the terms of that agreement are going to prevent any ambiguities or confusion between the parties later on. Conservation easements. This is where mom and dad may own the farmland and they don't want it to be subdivided and used for commercial development later on, and so they could certainly make an agreement with the state that that the land will never be used in that fashion, will never be subdivided. And that conservation easement usually get tax breaks from the government if you do that, as well as it runs with the land, meaning that it does pass on to successor owners and protects the property in that way. So we talked about the buy-sell agreements and how this is a way to prevent a deceased member's share of the business from ending up in the deceased member's family or estate. And then that could cause problems for the business because the business is now going to be working with maybe the widow or the family members, and there's no plan on, you know, how are we going to get this interest back into business and work with someone who really wants to be part of the business with us. So having a buy-sell agreement as part of the business documents predetermines all that and helps avoid all of that confusion and, you know, maybe, you know, a widow or family holding the company hostage because we don't know if we're not going to be able to get them to sell us their interest. So, all right. Sorry about that. Something's going on. I want to talk about business planning with estate planning. So let's talk about lifetime gifting. LLCs is a great way for you to, when I think about lifetime gifting, I think about is a good way for the owners to slowly gift their interest out to their children or to others to reduce their estate for death taxes. Okay, so in the past, we've historically seen it used that way. You slowly gift your interests out so that by the time that you pass away, your estate is below that death tax threshold. Another reason for lifetime gifting is you just want to pass the business on to your children or to others, and for them to eventually own the business, but you want to maintain some type of control over it. So you pass a portion of the business to your child, but you're the manager of the business. So you still have control over it. So when we talk about estate planning, you know, we're talking about the deceased owner's share of the business. So what's going to happen to the deceased owner's share of the business? We've already talked about buy-sell agreements to go ahead and help predetermine what happens to that share so that we can make it as easy as possible for the business in that transition. The deceased member is going to be distributing his interest in the business through his own personal estate plan documents. So whether it's cash that the deceased member's estate plan receives from a buy-sell agreement, or it might be the interest itself. It may be that that deceased member wants the interest in the business itself to be distributed to his family. And so that's going to go according to that deceased member's estate plan documents, which may be intestacy, which intestacy means there's no documents in place. So it's really up to the state statute to decide where that deceased member's estate goes, or maybe by a will. A will is still has to be supervised by the court, but at least we have some decision making there, and or a living trust. So here's a PowerPoint diagram that illustrates how a limited liability company, you can start gifting your interest to your spouse or your children or your business partners over time. That's what that pink box represents. The blue box represents if you have a living trust. A living trust, we think a living trust is the best estate planning document to have when you have a business entity, because a living trust, not only does it say, you know, who's going to get this when you die, but the living trust also states who's going to be managing your business interests when you become disabled. So the living trust has the ability to do that. So you want to make sure that your business is properly assigned to your living trust, so that when you become disabled, your disability trustee will manage your interest in the business for you. And then when you eventually pass away, your trust will say who's to get that interest when you die. So we see that the deceased member's estate plan is going to dictate who's going to be getting this interest when they pass away, and that's in their own personal plan documents. So this is an illustration of a decedent member using a will to pass his interest in the business to his beneficiaries. If it's the interest itself that the decedent wants to pass, then using a will or a trust, here we see that the decedent member could certainly put in the will a special gift, specifically gifting that interest in the business to a child or to a person that he wants to inherit that interest. This is a diagram of the probate process. So again, a will has to go through probate. In every state, a will has to go through probate. And so if you are transferring your business interest to your beneficiaries, that business interest, if you're using a will, has to be transferred through this probate process, and is going to be supervised or governed by the court. So it'd probably be better to use a living trust. We're going to show another slide that illustrates that, because if your business is stuck in one of these stages of the probate process, well, you can just see how burdensome and complicated that's going to be, not only for your beneficiaries, but for the business itself. So this is an illustration of using a trust instead of a will. So here we have your business interest would be transferred when you pass away. Your business interest would be transferred to your trust, or your trustee is going to be working with the business to settle your interest in the business. Maybe it's through a buy-sell agreement, so maybe you'll get cash that comes into the trust, or maybe it's going to be the interest itself that passes into the trust, and the decedent member is going to decide who in his family or his beneficiaries is to receive that business interest. I want to talk about the planning process for our law offices. First of all, I wanted to remind everybody that you can get a copy of these PowerPoint slides, an introductory booklet, evaluation sign-up form. As Amber had said before, she'll send you a link, an evaluation form that you'll have to complete to get these this information. You'll also have a 5% discount on fees for if you want our office to do any work for you, you'll receive a 5% discount on those fees. The way that our office works is that we provide a free 2-hour introductory estate planning consultation. And so there's no fee or obligation for this. And this is when we will look at your personal situation. And then we will advise you of a plan that meets your meet your goals for you and your family. There's no charge for this, and we will give you a flat fee at that initial meeting. You'll get a 5% discount on any fees that we quote. So usually there's a 3-part process to our planning process: the initial meeting, and then we quote you a fee, and if you decide to proceed, we'll schedule a planning meeting. And at the planning meeting, that's when we want all the details. I always call this decision day. So we'll want you to give all the details, but what's the name of the company going to be? Who are going to be the owners, and how much are they going to own, and things of that nature. So we'll go over all of that. And then we schedule the 3rd meeting, which is the signing meeting. That's when we typically bring the documents to you, go over everything with you, have you sign everything. Thereafter, we file everything. We file everything with the State Corporation Commission and record any deeds, if any. Now, a lot of times we're able to combine the 1st and the 2nd meeting. So the initial meeting and the planning meeting, we can combine that to make the process a little less for you, but not all the time. I mean, if it's pretty simple and you've already got all your information together at the initial meeting, we can certainly combine the first 2 meetings. So there was a study that was done by this university, and they found out that 5 or 6 hours of estate planning can literally save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a cost to you and your family. As well as if you have a plan in place and everybody knows what the plan is, this is going to avoid any confusion, any hard feelings, bitterness between your family, your loved ones, which of course you want to avoid that. So proper planning avoids all that. We do tell our clients that they should see us once every 3 years for a review meeting. We just want to make sure that they still have all of their documents in place. We're not missing anything. We want to make sure that they are having their annual meeting. Okay, so you're required by law to do your minutes every year. You've got to have those minutes done. They have to be in your documents. We make sure that if you transferred any of the interests over to other people, like children or others, that you've properly done those certificates of ownership, and those are all in order. We make sure that your business is properly funded and all the assets have been properly assigned to the business like they should be. And then we take a look at your bylaws and operating agreement to make sure that those are still in proper order. So here's the copy of our secretary, Linda. She is actually out on surgery right now, and she has some other family issues she's dealing with, but so we have a temporary in place for her right now. But there she is, and I will have to say that we've had a couple of temporaries fill in her role while she's gone, so please be patient with our office if it takes just a little bit longer to get back with you. I want to bring your attention to some future webinars that we have scheduled on the books. We have one next week, actually, and this one focuses on estate planning. Okay, so today's was business planning. Next week is estate planning. I encourage you to come because you're gonna find out some really, really good, important information about living trust and the difference between using that and a will. So I encourage you to come to that one. That is next week, October 20th at 2 o'clock. And then the following week, we have another webinar. We're going to be joined by a tax preparer, Tom Hill, and he's going to be talking to you about some tax planning. And then Jim Seidel is also going to be talking to you about some estate planning, business and estate planning, and transferring your business to your children. We've got the Amber's contact information at the bottom of the screen. So again, as I said before, if you'd like to have a copy of the slides for tonight's meeting, a copy of the evaluation form, the 5% discount form, you just have to contact Amber, and she's going to be saying some closing remarks tonight, so she'll remind you of how to handle that. And I will say that we will we will save a copy of this recorded webinar on the law firm's YouTube channel, as well as Virginia Cooperative Extension will be saving it on their YouTube channel as well. I just want to thank Jennifer and Amber for hosting this for us today. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Amber right now so she can share some closing remarks with you.